As the Marlins are taking on the Rays this weekend, I have to ask this question. Do you want to be like Tampa?
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Marlins. I'm your host, Jeremiah Geiger. I've been podcasting about the Marlins for 3 seasons now. Go hit me up on X at Jeremiah Geiger 2. And thank you for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Don't forget to hit subscribe on the YouTube channel. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. And today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. And on today's show, I'm going to talk about this upcoming series with the Tampa Bay Rays, but not just focus on a traditional preview or whatnot. No, we're going to ask the question, do you want the Marlins to be like Tampa Bay? The Rays' way of doing things. The pros, the cons, everything in between. We're going to dive into that. I'm going to dive into some under-the-radar players that the Marlins have. They've had a couple good finds this season. And then the minor league report coming up in the last segment. Take a look at the minor leagues. What players are standing out to me that can contribute to the big league club in the future? That's all coming up on today's show. The question of the episode is, do you want to be like Tampa? Do you want the Marlins to emulate the Tampa Bay Rays model of success year in and year out to a T? You want them to follow that blueprint? I have some thoughts on this. The first thing I'm going to say is that another major league team should not emulate a specific way of doing things that has success for that one team and isn't popular among the majority of the teams. Tampa Bay, the Athletics, didn't say Oakland, Milwaukee, the Guardians, those teams have all utilized the small market tactics, essentially Moneyball, for the last X number of years. It's pretty simple. They don't spend a ton of money in free agency. They extend their young talent. And when it gets too expensive, when they're approaching their arbitration years, before they demand the big bucks, they ship them out for a new wave of talent and they repeat the cycle all over again. And to a degree, they're successful. The Guardians have made one World Series back in 2016. That's when the Cubs won it. The Rays made a World Series in 2020 and in 2008, albeit it was that COVID season. So you can put as much weight onto it as you want, but they make the playoffs all the time. The Brewers make the playoffs. The Guardians, the Athletics have had a little bit of a rocky last few years, but in the early 2010s, the Athletics were dominant. They were running the American League West. And then what happened? The Athletics, their young talent gets expensive. They ship them out. And they have to start all over again. And we're seeing so much talent that have come up through their team in particular go off into other organizations. And the Athletics were the original Moneyball pioneers, if you will. Tampa Bay is very innovative. They do a lot of things right. Peter Bendix, the president of baseball operations for the Marlins, was a longtime employee of the Tampa Bay Rays. In case anyone is watching or listening and didn't know that, Peter Bendix has been a member of the Rays organization for pretty much his entire career until he came over to Miami. He worked his way up through the chain, had a lot of success at what he did, and found himself getting a lead front office role in a major league organization. And it's great for him. So he's naturally going to take a lot of the ideas and philosophies that they implemented in Tampa to Miami. However, there's a couple things that Tampa Bay does really, really well. And I struggle to see Miami having that same level of success at these few things. The first one, player development. Remember earlier, just a couple minutes ago, how I said that the Moneyball teams, what they do, they have their talent, and once they get expensive, they trade them off, and it starts all over again. That's what Tampa Bay has been doing for years. And in order to do that, you always have to have an elite, strong farm system where you trade a very successful player at one position, you have somebody waiting in the wings, ready to go to come in and produce, so you don't miss any steps. That's how Tampa Bay stays competitive. The Marlins have struggled with player development for the entirety of the last decade. Think back to Giancarlo Stanton, Christian Yelich, Jose Fernandez, that wave of prospects at that time, those were blue chip prospects, drafted and developed by Miami. The Marlins have not had a player like that in their system in about 10 years. An elite blue chip prospect drafted and developed. Every team is drafting. Every team has scouts and directors of scouting. It's a whole operation. But it's who can identify the talent, number one, and then who can develop that talent, number two. That's what I want to see in the next 2 to 3 years. How are the Marlins going to develop their talent? Last year, I felt like the 2024 amateur draft was a super important opportunity for Frankie Pilieri, the director of amateur scouting, Peter Bendix, the whole new operation that came in and replaced Kim Ng, to make an impact on the Marlins system. We're still waiting to see what happens. We don't know if Carter Johnson and PJ Morlando are going to achieve expectations. But what I will say is that I'm worried about Carter Johnson, who's off to a bad start in single A. I will say PJ Morlando looks kind of injury prone. Probably limited to a corner outfield spot. And it's just one draft, but one draft can truly alter the direction of your farm system and ultimately the major league roster for years to come. Blue chip prospects is what the Marlins need. They haven't had those guys. Even the prospects that Peter Bendix has brought in have been via trade. Agustin Ramirez, Connor Norby, Kyle Stowers, all those guys making an impact on the major league roster. They weren't drafted and they weren't developed by the Marlins. That's what I think Miami can especially learn from Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is one of the best in the business at their player development system. The other thing, though, that I think needs to be noted, Tampa makes a lot of trades. They will trade anyone and everyone when it comes to a price tag being attached to the name. Doesn't matter if they're a few years away from free agency. If they start to get expensive, if they feel that they can flip them and get a good return, Tampa will do that. Miami did that this offseason by trading Jake Berger and Jesus Luzardo. And I will be very confident in saying that the Tampa Bay Rays would not have traded Jesus Luzardo to an in-division rival for 2 single A players coming off an injury-prone year for Luzardo. You got the least possible return you could have had, and that trade is going to stick with you for years to come because you got to face Jesus Luzardo for the next 5 years, 7 years, and then it's going to be a while. However long he's in Philly, that's a reminder of what you had. He had years of control. You did not have to trade him, and they did. And they got back a return which hasn't produced anything so far in the minor leagues. Starlin Cobb is injured right now. I believe he's on the 60-day injured list. It's not good. So smart trades is the other thing. That if you want to be a Tampa Bay Ray, that style, if you want to follow that model, player development has to be elite, not good, not improved. It has to be elite, or none of this will matter. And then the second part, when you do make these trades, you have to nail them. There cannot be swings and misses and getting a guy who universally people say is a good prospect, but wow, what if you had waited? What if you had waited till the deadline and proved he was healthy? That's what I think the Marlins missed out on with the Jesus Luzardo trade. This team is going to never spend the way the fans are going to want them to. And that is something that everybody has to realize and accept. As a fan, we're not the ones writing the checks. Bruce Sherman is. And Bruce Sherman has made it clear through his actions he's not willing to go out and make the big ticket free agent splash in the offseason. It's been Tim Anderson. It's been Cal Quantrill. That's about it. But what the Marlins can do, and this is what Tampa does, under the radar players acquisitions that make an impact when they're looked over by all the other teams in baseball. You have to live on the edges. If you're not going to spend in free agency, you got to be really good in the minor leagues and developing. But you also got to look at the edges and find hidden jewels. Marlins have had a couple really good acquisitions this offseason that have impressed me. I'm going to talk about them, the under the radar players, right after this. And this episode is brought to you by Gametime. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or your family? Maybe it's game day and suddenly you realize you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Gametime comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merchandise, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Gametime makes it possible. Gametime makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch, and they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and the lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. The seat views are right in the app before you buy, so you know exactly where you will be. I think that's one of the best perks of Gametime is before you buy your seat, you can look at the view. You can look at the diamond, you can look at the court or the field, and you know exactly what you're getting. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. I appreciate you being part of the Locked On Marlins crew. If you're an everyday listener out there, share the podcast with your friends. Anybody else who loves Marlins baseball, this is the show for you. And if this is your first time checking out Locked On Marlins, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, leave me a like, leave me a comment. Let me know what you think about this team as we continue on this season. It's going to be a fun season, guys. Under the radar prospects for the Marlins. Not prospects, but players. because they were prospects, but now they're major leaguers. First one I got to bring up is Liam Hicks. How about Liam Hicks coming up from Double A? He was in the Tigers system. Marlins select him in the Rule 5 draft. That means he has to stay a Miami Marlin for the entirety of the season. Otherwise, he gets offered back to his original club, which in this case would be Detroit. Now, Liam Hicks never played above the Double A level. That's a bit unusual, I would say, for a hitter especially, and not a hitter that is super well known in the prospect rankings. He was never a top prospect, so to make that jump from Double A to the majors, that's no small leap, and he's done really well. Liam Hicks, I think, needs to consistently, more often than not, be in the lineup. He's hitting .257, an OPS of 766. That's only in 70 at-bats, though. He's not getting enough playing time for a player that is showing flashes of brilliance at the plate. Is he going to be a star, a superstar? No. But he can be an above-average bat who swings from the left side, can play catcher, and also, this is another interesting point, when it comes to Liam Hicks, they're carrying 3 catchers on the roster. He's going to be hard-pressed to get consistent playing time at the catching position. But he started 44 games in the minor leagues at first base. The Marlins have had a mess at first base. Matt Mervis is not the answer. It was a good experiment. It was worth a shot. But moving forward, it's very clear Matt Mervis is just not the answer. So I don't know how the organization feels about Liam Hicks potentially picking up a first baseman's mitt and going over and getting some reps, get him to a point where he feels comfortable in a major league game. But it's a way you could get his bat in the lineup and start eating into those Mervis at-bats, because I just don't want to see Mervis up there anymore. I think that experiment should be over. You got to cut your losses and move on. Liam Hicks, give him an opportunity for more at-bats. The other player I want to mention, Ronny Henriquez. He gets DFA'd by the Minnesota Twins in the offseason. He's dropped to waivers. The Marlins claim him. He's a hard-throwing righty, and it was worth a shot. He's had starters experience. What he's done this season, for the most part, has been a middle reliever, and I think the Marlins could consider starting to give him more high-leverage opportunities. He's leading the team in Ks per 9, 12.2 strikeouts per 9 innings, and that's in 20 innings of work. So it's enough of a sample size to show me that, he has legit stuff. It's about the command. He does have a bit of an issue with the walks. I have the numbers pulled up right here. I believe he's had, let's see here. There it is. 12 walks in 20 innings. So, that can be brought down a little bit moving forward. But Ronny Henriquez is a player that you found for nothing, essentially. You put in a waiver claim, you got him, and right now, in 20 innings of work, he's leading the team in strikeouts per 9. Shows me that he's got nasty stuff. I mean, the fastball characteristics are good. Ronny Henriquez is not a bad pitcher. We talk about junk ballers and soft tossers. No, Henriquez has an electric arm. It's about the control and the role he fits on this team. Because if anything we've learned so far this season from Clayton McCullough, it's that he likes utilizing a couple arms in the middle of the game to bridge the gap from starter to high leverage arms. So that 5th, 6th inning, sometimes the 7th, you could see a guy go out there and throw 2 innings, maybe 3, depending on the situation. But Ronny Henriquez, really like what he's brought to this team. This Marlins team is scrappy. I've said it before. They're going to compete. They're going to be exciting. I look at the standings right now, and they're 16-26. It's the third worst record in the National League. They're ahead of the Pirates, and they're ahead of the Rockies. The Rockies, that is a complete and utter mess over in Denver. If you know a Rockies fan, shoot them a text. Hey, I hope you're doing okay. Let me know if you need anything. Because the Rockies, man, that is not fun. Fired their manager. The Pirates fired their manager. I feel like the Marlins are in a better spot from a culture standpoint than both those teams. But as the legendary coach, Bill Parcels of the NFL said, you are what your record says you are. And ultimately, this team is 10 games under 500. It does not mean that it's a horrible team and it's an unwatchable product. No, it just means that there's work to be done. There's improvement to be had. And this team is going to continue developing and crafting and finding under the radar players and pitchers to try to continue to get better as the season progresses. Who's going to be last year's Otto Lopez? You know, we talk about Otto Lopez as being the gold standard of waiver claims for Peter Bendix. Who's going to be the acquisition this year that makes a difference and competes on this roster? Is there going to be trades come the trade deadline? How does Peter Bendix operate there? I have a feeling, this is just a gut feel, that we're going to see a couple trades that we did not expect. That Peter Bendix has something up his sleeve, and it's a lot like Tampa Bay. Going back to the purpose of this show, you want to be like Tampa. Tampa will do things that surprise you. Peter Bendix is cut from the same cloth. I have no doubt that he's going to do something this season that is going to make us go, wow. And I'm going to have to hop on here and do a podcast, and it's going to be raw and just unfiltered thoughts. So that's what this podcast is. It's just talking baseball. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Do you think there's going to be a potential surprise move that the Marlins make? Because right now it feels like it's just kind of cookie cutter. It's just going along. You know, Sandy's disappointed. Max has pitched well. He's come back down to earth a little bit. The Marlins lineup has its ups and downs. The biggest news was Agustin Ramirez getting called up, and he's been sensational for the team. Will we see another major call-up? That would be great to see. Davison De Los Santos, maybe. Speaking of Davison De Los Santos, we got to dive into the minor league report. What's been going on in the minor leagues? What are some players down there that really interest me? I'm going to talk about them. I'm going to talk about the minor leagues right after this. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live. With player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. You know, Karl Anthony Towns, I was looking at the prop bets for Friday's NBA game versus the Celtics and the Knicks, and this one really intrigued me. Karl Anthony Towns, minus 150 for 20 or more points as the Knicks go to close it out versus Boston. Now, Boston's without Jason Tatum, so they won last game. Can they do it again? You know, I felt like minus 150 was pretty low for a player of Cat's caliber, but we'll see. Hey, if you got a read on who's heating up, use that same game parlay. You could check FanDuel for current playoff odds and player props so you don't miss, you don't have any questions. All the information's right there on FanDuel. And the best part of it, once you sign up, you do your research, you place your first $5 bet. It's just $5. And if it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. So just $5, get $200 in bonus bets. It's a really good deal, guys. Don't miss up. Don't miss this opportunity. Make every moment more with FanDuel. It's the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Remember, if you're not watching Locked On Marlins on the YouTube channel, and if you are, you'll see that I have this super cool throwback Florida Marlins hat. But you can also listen to the podcast wherever you get your podcast from. Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, all the major podcast platforms. Locked On Marlins is on there. It's time to talk about the minor leagues. The good old farm system. You know who the first player I'm going to talk about is? Troy Johnston, because that dude went insane on Thursday. He finished a home run short of the cycle. I had a tweet about it earlier. He tripled, he doubled, he singled, he walked, and in his last at bat of the game, it was in the 7th inning. I turned it on to see if Troy was going to get that cycle. He hit one 393 feet to dead center, over 100 miles an hour, but it stayed in the yard, just about 10 feet short of the fence, and he flies out. But a great game from Troy Johnston, who's really heated up after a porous start to the season. I mean, he was hitting under 200, and the average kept coming up because Troy is a professional hitter, and he's going to continue to hit at AAA. That's what he does. He's been a good hitter in the Marlins organization, and he still hasn't been afforded an opportunity to see what he's got at the major league level. But we got to watch Matt Mervis continue to struggle at first base. Eric Wagaman is starting to slow down as well. You cannot tell me that it wouldn't hurt the Marlins, that it would hurt the Marlins to bring up Troy Johnston and give him a crack at it. Let the dude play. He's earned it. Davison De Los Santos. This is the X factor for me when it comes to the Marlins farm system. I look at this farm system, and there's a couple top tier guys that, the sky's the limit for. You got Thomas White in high A Beloit right now, left-handed pitcher, one of the best left-handed prospects in the game. You have Andrew Salas, who you just signed as an international free agent. He is going to be special. Andrew Salas has the potential to be a top 5 prospect in all of baseball one day. That's how good he is. But behind those two, and I think they're blue chip-esque prospects. If not right now, certainly the potential when it comes to Salas. But who else can really make a huge impact on the Marlins, and soon? It's got to be Davison De Los Santos. He's had 5 home runs this season. He was the reigning minor league home run champ from a year ago, but he's still in the minors because of concerns with his swing, with his approach. Is he going to continue to chase? And he's cut down on the chase this season, and that's been impressive. Now, he still strikes out a lot. I still think he's always going to strike out a lot. I don't think that part of his game is going to change. But if Davison can just have a solid plan and approach at the plate, not swing at everything, not chase at pitches a foot out of the zone, then he's going to earn a call-up, and he's going to have an opportunity to showcase that power alongside Agustin Ramirez. De Los Santos is my X factor. I don't know if he'll be good. I don't know if he'll be bad. He could either be a really good above average power hitter. He has insane power. He could put up 40 home runs in the majors. if everything clicked for him, or it doesn't, and he strikes out 40% of the time, and we're looking at another Matt Mervis type of situation. And that wouldn't be good for anyone. Joe Mack. You know I love Joe Mack. Joe Mack is somebody who it feels like with every game that passes in AAA, and he earned the call up once Augustine Ramirez got called up to the Marlins. Joe Mack was the catcher in AA, who is now hitting for Jacksonville. It just feels like Joe Mack's going to see big league pitching here very soon. At some point this season, it feels like Joe Mack is going to be a Miami Marlin. In 18 games since he made his AAA debut, he's hitting .309, 2 bombs, 4 doubles, OPS of 824. So he's taken the leap from AA to AAA and made it look fairly easy. He couples that with a rocket arm as a catcher, really good defense. He's as good as they come. When what you want out of a catching prospect, Joe Mack has. Premium position, really good bat. I'm excited for him. I would not be shocked, again, if in September he gets a call up and gets his feet wet in the major leagues. I wouldn't be rushing it, but I would like to see it. It just depends on how they feel and what the situation, because then you have like potentially 4 catchers. I don't think the Marlins are going to end the season with 4 catchers on the major league roster. A lot of high names, or not high names, guys in the high levels of the major leagues or the minor leagues that I've been talking about. But there is one more I wanted to mention, and shout out Reese Stark for this one. Reese Stark, he's on Twitter. He's got a lot of prospect knowledge, so go check him out over there. Dale Stanovich. If you've watched the podcast for a while, you remember me talking about how good I thought Dale Stanovich would be in spring training. This was about when the NRI list had come out, and I saw Dale Stanovich's name on there, and he did okay, but he's a strikeout machine, and he's in AA. He has a 30.9 K percentage with a 0.66 ERA. So shout out Reese Stark for that particular stat. Dale Stanovich is a guy who could progress through this system and become a strikeout weapon out of the bullpen. I still like him. I still like Josh Simpson as well. Both those guys are lefties. And Stanovich, again, AA Pensacola right now. Last player before we get out of here, I want to talk about Andrew Pintar. Check out my tweet about him. Put some video on there for you guys. Andrew Pintar in AAA is hitting .314. I had to make sure that was the correct number because last season he really struggled. But he's hitting .314 through 36 games, so it's not a tiny sample size. Plays really good defense. He can play center. He can play a corner spot, and he's got 11 steals. The dude is fast, and if that hit tool can remain consistent, I believe Andrew Pintar is going to progress through AAA quickly, and whether it's at some point this season or next year, he's going to be a Marlin and wearing a Marlins uniform, because anytime you have a high upside bat who can hit for average, provide a little bit of power, and then play elite defense at a premium position like center field, you're going to take that. So Andrew Pintar should be on everybody's radar. That's going to do it for today's edition of Locked On Marlins. For your second listen of the day, go check out the new Locked On MLB Game Night. It's really cool over there on the Locked On MLB channel, every game, every night. And until next time, guys, stay safe, stay locked on, and let's go fit.